Have you ever stopped to think about just how big fashion is, globally speaking? It's way more than just clothes, right? It's
Yeah.
this enormous industry affecting billions of people, billions of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we're going deep. We're diving into the global fashion apparel market.
That's right. And we've been digging into some really solid research here, specifically the Global Fashion Apparel Market Forecast, 2021-2033 Insights from Cognitive Market Research.
Okay.
And our mission really is to cut through all that complexity for you, give you a clear picture of the main trends, what's driving the growth, and where the big regional shifts are happening. Think of it like your quick guide to fashion's economic pulse.
A shortcut? I like it. And when we say enormous, well, the numbers back that up. Let's set
Yeah.
the scene a bit. Back in 2021, global apparel sales hit, what was it, $1.3 trillion?
Yeah, staggering, isn't it? And looking ahead, the projection for 2025 is already climbing past $1.5 trillion.
Wow.
And it doesn't stop there. By 2033, the forecast suggests it'll swell to over $2 trillion. That's $2 trillion.
That's just huge.
It is. And the overall growth rate, the CAGR, is around 3.78%. That might not sound explosive on its own.
Right.
But apply that to $1 trillion base. We're talking hundreds of billions in new sales every year. It really underlines how enduring the demand for fashion is worldwide.
Okay, so that's the big picture. Massive scale, steady growth. But where is this growth actually happening? Is it evenly spread? Let's maybe start with North America. Often called mature, right? But still a giant.
Definitely a powerhouse.
Yeah.
North America pulled in over $325 billion in 2021, and it's expected to keep growing steadily, hitting nearly $500 billion by 2033. That works out to about 3.4% growth annually.
Okay, steady.
And what's interesting within that, while the U.S. is, the dominant force, well over half the sale.
Yeah, no surprise there.
Right. But we do see some, let's say, nuances.
Oh, like what, are there shifts happening besides just the U.S. getting bigger?
Well, surprisingly perhaps, Canada actually shows a slightly higher growth rate within the region. It's projected around 4.4% annually.
Interesting.
Yeah, suggests maybe strong consumer interest, perhaps a retail scene that's quite dynamic. Mexico's expanding too, a bit more modestly, but still consistent growth.
So even in these established markets, demand is still solid.
Yeah.
You mentioned things like athleisure earlier.
Exactly. Athleisure, comfort wear, and also, that increasing focus on sustainable brands, those are definitely fueling things, even in mature regions.
Makes sense. Okay, let's hop across the pond to Europe, another traditional fashion heavyweight. What are the numbers telling us there?
Europe's also a very substantial piece of the puzzle. Sales were just under $260 billion in 2021.
Right.
And the projection sees it growing at about 3.6% annually, reaching nearly $400 billion by 2033. So like North America, it's mature, yes, but definitely not standing still.
Nearly $400 billion.
Yeah.
Still impressive growth. Is it pretty much the same story across the continent, or are there standouts in Europe too?
It's not entirely uniform, which is quite interesting. The UK actually jumped out. It shows a really strong growth rate, over 4.7% a year.
Higher than the regional average then.
Yeah, significantly higher. Points to a dynamic market there, maybe strong e-commerce, changing tastes, that sort of thing. Germany and France, of course, are big contributors to holding steady.
Okay.
And even smaller, wealthy markets like Luxembourg show healthy, consistent growth. So it suggests, while luxury is key, there's also real strength in the mid-market and more accessible fashion segments across Europe.
Got it. Okay, now, Asia Pacific. Our sources hinted this is where things get really dynamic. What's the big picture look like?
Oh, absolutely. This is, hands down, the fastest growing region globally. We're talking over $390 billion in sales in 2021.
Already bigger than North America back then.
Exactly. And it's projected to surge past $650 billion by 2033, the annual growth rate. A very strong 4.38%.
Wow. What's driving that kind of acceleration?
It's really a combination of factors, a rapidly expanding middle class across many countries, huge urbanization trends, and just, massive adoption of e-commerce. Digital is key there.
So massive demographic shifts plus digital convenience. Okay, who are the main engines of this growth within Asia Pacific?
Well, China is obviously enormous. It leads the region, projected to grow at over 4.7% annually itself,
Okay.
reaching more than $240 billion by 2033. Just the sheer volume, combined with, that rapidly evolving consumer market and digital fashion platforms, it's huge.
Right.
But here's something even more striking, perhaps. India.
Ah,
India is actually posting the highest regional growth rate, nearly 5.3% annually. That means its market size is set to nearly double, hitting over $100 billion by 2033.
5.3%. That's incredible.
It really highlights the potential there. Young population, developing economy, huge appetite for fashion. And it's not just China and India. The rest of APAC's category is also booming, growing at an impressive 6.8% annually.
6.8. Wow. So the growth is really widespread across the region.
Definitely. It's a diverse and very dynamic picture.
Incredible. Okay, let's shift our focus a bit south now to South America.
Yeah.
What's the fashion landscape like there?
South America's fashion apparel sales, they were around $195 billion in 2021. The projection is for solid growth, about 3.6% annually.
Okay.
Should reach almost $300 billion by 2033. So, consistent growth across several key economies down there.
Solid, consistent growth. Any particular countries leading the pack, or is it more of a general lift?
Brazil is the giant, no question. It's projected to hit over $90 billion by 2033. But interestingly, Colombia actually shows a slightly higher growth rate. And Argentina is also a key player with healthy expansion expected. So it suggests that while Brazil leads in sheer size, other countries are definitely gaining ground, probably driven by rising incomes and more access to global trends.
Got it. Okay. Moving on to the Middle East. Often associated with luxury, but what about the wider apparel market? What's the data show?
The Middle East is another region showing really strong momentum. Sales were over $68 billion in 2021.
Right.
And they're projected to grow quite significantly, nearly $118 billion by 2033. That's an annual growth rate over 4.2%.
4.2%. That's strong. Similar to Asia Pacific almost.
It is strong, yeah. It clearly reflects that burgeoning economic power and rising consumer demand, particularly in some of the Gulf nations.
And which countries are really driving that growth in the Middle East?
This is where you see some really impressive acceleration. The UAE stands out with particularly high growth, over 4.8% annually. It's projected to nearly double its market size by 2033.
Wow, nearly 5%.
And Saudi Arabia is right there too, another major growth leader, growing at over 4.7% annually, expected to reach almost $29 billion.
Okay.
These numbers really point to a significant investment in retail, malls, infrastructure, plus that growing young population with more spending power.
Fascinating. All right, let's wrap up our world tour with Africa. What's the story for fashion apparel on the continent?
Africa. Okay, sales there were about $62 billion in 2021. The projection is for growth to over $93 billion by 2033. That gives it an EGR of around 2.1%.
2.1%. So steady growth, but maybe not quite the explosive numbers we saw in Asia or the Middle East.
Exactly. It's consistent growth, but more cautious, you could say. Nigeria is the largest market in Africa by volume.
Right. Any other nuances there?
Well, while Nigeria is the biggest, its growth rate is a bit more modest, according to these projections. South Africa, though a smaller market overall, is actually expected to expand at a slightly higher rate.
Interesting.
So, yeah, Africa shows consistent growth. Potential is definitely there in these emerging markets, but maybe facing some... Yeah, absolutely, showing the most dynamic growth, which kind of contrasts with North America and Europe described as mature, yes, but still expanding, still finding ways to grow through new trends, new consumer habits.
Right. And what really jumped out for me from all this data is the growing clout of specific countries. We
Yes.
talked about India, China, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. They aren't just growing, they're growing faster than average.
Exactly. And that really underscores their increasing importance in shaping where global apparel goes next. It's maybe not just about the traditional fashion capitals we always think of.
Which leads to a really interesting thought, doesn't
It
it?
does. So what does all this actually mean? It kind of raises a big question for you listening to think about. How might this ongoing shift, this tilting of growth towards places like Asia Pacific and the Middle East, how might that change global fashion trends?
Yeah, or supply chains.
Or supply chains, definitely. And maybe even how we define a fashion capital in the next 10 years or so. Are we heading towards a real rebalancing of influence in the fashion world? Something to ponder.